If you want to create a design just like this, then keep watching. Welcome back to another one of our tutorials. It's so lovely to see so many of you returning time and time again, and I really am grateful for all the subscribers, the likes and the comments that I get. So keep them coming, because it's fabulous to see how much you enjoy the videos. Hopefully today is Tuesday, but who knows. So this one links to the Back to Basics series, and it's taking another look at those basic skills that I've taught you in the past. And I'm using this metal container. This again is one I've picked up from a charity shop, but I think it might be an IKEA base. But you can get lots of bases just like this from your ordinary supermarket. And most of the flowers that I've got today are from the supermarket as well. So hopefully something you can copy at home. Now you might be wondering what she got sitting on the top of her container. It's a piece of ivy that originally would have been climbing up another tree, and it's been cut down and discarded, and you know, I can't pass many things without collecting them and picking them up. And I thought it would be an interesting texture and an interesting shape for this parallel design. My base is quite shiny and maybe a little bit on the more modern side, whereas the style I'm creating is more rustic and a bit more country in its shape and style. So it's almost placed in there to give me another texture and to make it look far more natural, and I think it's going to be more in keeping with my flower choice. And it's quite good. I'm just going to tip it forward, because if I tip it forward like that, you can see my floral foam in there. I've got about 1.5 blocks of traditional green floral foam. But the piece of ivy across the top still gives me gaps within the material to place my flowers in. So it's going to not hinder my floral design. And it is just sitting on the top, it's just resting on there. If I was delivering this for a customer, I would probably wire it to the base. But that's my starting structure. If you're not sure how to soak the floral foam, then go back and look at the Back to Basics series, because I give a full tutorial back there of how you can prepare your floral foam. That's my mechanics prepared, so now let's get creative with some flowers. Now you'll have seen some of this material before, possibly you've seen it all before, and you might be fed up of seeing it, but we're going to start with the birch. And once the spring is out of the way, I probably won't be getting the birch out anymore. But I do like to use things that are in season, and I do like to inspire you to be able to collect things from your local area when you're maybe out having a walk. So the birch comes in quite handy for that reason, and you might have guessed it, I like to use it quite a lot. I've created that very narrow parallel style of design again, the material all quite close together, so we create that upward movement. And I'm going to introduce those leeks again. So if you haven't seen the design for Sunday, the interpretive design for St. David's Day, pop back and have a look, because I've used some leeks in the arrangement, and I've just used some kebab sticks so that I have some support to place into the foam, and they're going to sit quite nicely just between those two pieces of the ivy root that's going horizontally through the design. 2 placements now on either side. So parallel designs generally aren't symmetrical, so I don't need to worry about making them perfectly matching on either side. But visually, I need, if possible, to try and visually balance the design. So we don't have to have the shape balanced, but ideally I need something as heavy as this on the opposite side. So we'll work on that as we go through the arrangement. Now you might remember from the last video, I had this little bunch of daffodils, and again it's a supermarket bunch. It's tied with some elastic. This was how the bunch came from the supermarket. I've left them in that position because the heads were all at the same height, and I faced them forward because this design tends to be looked at from one side. And I've just tied it with some decorative raffia so that it's neat and it's tidy for the design. And this time I'm going to place them on the opposite edge. And even though they're a different colour, and a different shape to the leek. Got to concentrate on this bit so that I don't snap the stems of the daffodils. Even though it's a different texture, different colour, visually this head section here is quite dominant. So I'm hoping that it's going to draw your eye over to this side. So we don't have this very masked section here with leeks. My eye is being drawn over to the opposite side as well. Now, if we were doing a true parallel design, we would probably only put one placement of flowers there in the middle so that we had clear gaps, clear space in between the flowers. And that's what we call negative space. So we would leave clear gaps in the middle. But for this design, I've got quite a lot of spring flowers. So I'm going to arrange them more like a herbaceous garden would be, with the flowers quite close together. My next flower is going to be the hyacinth, and you might not have seen the hyacinths yet, but they are coming in another video. This beautiful colour, it's a real soft pink, and it's a contrasting colour to the yellow daffodils, but I felt it was very much like our gardens should be in the spring, with soft colours or bright colours maybe, but those interesting spring flowers coming up alongside one another in the garden. So you can see there, I just clustered them together, still in that parallel fashion, so still alongside one another, just like they would be when they're springing up from your garden. And I think I'm going to leave it with 2. Let's just try 3. Yeah, 3 is going to be too much for me. But what I will do is bring some pink to this corner. So I'm going to add in a little pink hyacinth on that side. So it brings that pink colour in all the way through to the edge. This one can be cut down shorter. Again, I need your eye to travel down towards the base. I don't want all the materials to be in that very severe artificial line there across the top. If you're struggling with the spring flowers, getting them into the floral foam, you can either support them by inserting a cocktail stick inside the base of the hyacinth, or you can use a pencil to make a hole in the floral foam first, and then the hyacinths fit in much easier. But you can see now the pink is in the centre and on the left hand side of the arrangement, and I'm just going to tack another one at the back here, so the colour is fairly evenly distributed, but it's not exactly the same on either side. I really love the daffodils. Of course, I'm Welsh and it's our national flower, and that's why I've still got some leeks left over here, because I've used them in an interpretive design for St David's Day. But there we have a fairly even distribution of the pink colour in, but I'm not worrying too much about it being perfectly matching on both sides. Okay, so let's go now with the narcissi. Quite a heavily scented, sweet, very soft, gentle little narcissi, and I'm going to put these in individually. You can of course put them into a bunch just like I did with the other ones, but with the heads of these, they're much softer and they're all facing in different directions. So I'm just going to arrange them so that the heads, you can really get good value from the head sizes. This introduces a darker yellow, almost an orange colour in there as well. And if you wanted to tie the tops of them together to match the other daffodils, that's okay as well. You can see now those parallel placements starting to come together, but there's not a great deal of space in between them. And I always think this is very much a British interpretation of a parallel design. If you look at parallel arrangements done with different countries, different designers in different parts of the world, we all have a slightly different interpretation. Still have the shorter daffodils, and they're short because I've used them in a previous design. I'm going to make them a little bit shorter again because they're almost the same height as my hyacinths, and I really need to have a different level of flower. We don't want to have them all at the same height. If I put them in at this height, they're going to block my hyacinth, and we're also going to have a very artificial line across the middle of the design, which is what I've tried to do with these. I've tried to stagger them slightly so the heights vary. Now, because it's a parallel design, I need to place all my flowers in straight up in that vertical position. I don't want to angle them off to the side, which then becomes a radial style of arranging. We either go parallel, like this style, or we go radial. There is the option to go diagonal as well, but we don't seem to do much diagonal work. There is a video in the Back to Basics tutorials where I do a diagonal arrangement, and we could probably look at those again because I think I maybe have only done one. So a little cluster there of the small narcissi in the front, and I've only got 2 left, but I'm going to put them all towards the back. In between, I've got to work now in between that ivy root. This is going to help give me some depth. It's going to make your eye travel through the design. Now, one thing that's hard with a parallel design is creating that width or that depth of the arrangement, because a lot of the focus is on the up and down placements. So when we turn it from the side, you need to make sure that you've placed them in using all of the depth of the foam. Otherwise, your arrangement becomes really flat. So this one here is bringing your eye backwards. So is the birch. And also that horizontal line of the ivy root is making you follow the backwards line. Hopefully that all makes sense to you. The daffodils, the 2 different varieties, the hyacinths as well, they've come from just my local shop. So I've ordered flowers in on the Dutch auction site for me to sell here in the studio, and I couldn't resist these amazing pink pussy willows. They worked really well with the hyacinths. So I bought these first, and then when I saw the hyacinths in the supermarket this morning, I thought, oh, we've got to buy those because the colour combination is going to work so well together. So I'm going to now add a section of these into the middle. And I've already cut these to size because I've used them in the previous arrangement. So they were a lot longer than this when I started off. So I've created a little section there in the centre, and I'm also going to bring this colour to the outside edge, but lower them down, so put them in so they're a bit shorter. And I'm not worrying too much about arranging in 3s and 5s and what have you. I'm just using the materials that I've got. So we have a group of 2 here and a group of 3 there in the middle. And I think that's coming together really nicely. Now for me, we have an area here that could do with maybe the stronger yellow colour. So I've got a couple more of the larger daffodils, which I can use quite nicely in that gap. But I don't think I need to use the whole bunch. So what I'm going to do with these is cut myself maybe 3, we'll see how 3 work, and we'll bring those to the front. Again, I don't really want to hide that hyacinth. I've cut them quite short, and they're going to sit quite comfortably there in the front. 3 I think is going to be ample. And you know, these daffodils are obviously open at the moment. I've had them in the light and in water since yesterday because I wanted them to be open to make the video. But of course they don't have to be open when you use them. You can put them in the bed and then you can enjoy them as they open up at home. And of course the hyacinths have still got a little way to go yet before they are fully open. And the narcissi last a nice length of time, so you can enjoy those as well. And then big splash of the yellow colour. So my eye is coming downwards and it also going horizontally across, so you can see all the different colours and the different textures. But I haven't overcrowded it and blocked any of the flowers that are behind one another. Now I've done a parallel design before and I didn't use a great deal of foliage at the bottom. But what I've picked from the garden is the begonia leaf, or the elephant's ears. So you might have these if you're in the UK or other parts of the world. They're green throughout the year, and then as the frost gets them and as the winter, you know, it goes colder in the winter, they turn into these beautiful shades of browny red colouring. And it's a pinky sort of tone on it, so it's going to pick up really nicely with the pink colouring of my hyacinths. It's also going to work really nicely with my wood. And what I'm doing with these is I'm stepping them on top of one another. So this is a method of arranging flowers, almost like steps. So if you were heading up the stairs, you would step up as you go along. This method is called stepping, and I've done it at the front of the arrangement. This also helps to create depth, gives me that front and back. And I'm going to use 2 towards the back as well. And I'm laying them flat on top of the floral foam with a larger leaf underneath and the smaller leaf on top. And I'm just echoing that at the back. Got a few of these. So this is what they look like before the cold winter has got them, and then they start to go this lovely shade as the weather gets a bit colder. And what I'm going to do with these is add them on to the opposite side, just so that hyacinth on that side has some colour and texture alongside it. Bit fiddly here because that ivy is right in the way of placing my flower. You're going to see that I haven't done matching pairs on either side, so I haven't repeated this shape over here because that tends to make the design a little formal and more traditional in its styling. I've done this grouping and blocking method, which is more of a modern technique. And then to fill in the gaps that I have left, I have a very small amount of conifer, which is a limey green colour. This is Cupressus Goldcrest. It's that one that has that beautiful lemon scent to it. And it's a fluffy texture, spiky, so it's going to work quite well alongside the flat begonia leaves that I've just put in. Bit fiddly now because they're quite small pieces, and these were left from another design that I did here for a shop order. I don't have a great deal of it, but I keep all small bits of foliage because they come in really handy for filling in small gaps within a design. So we're going to spread that out a little bit. Now for a moment I'm just going to work at the front. We can fill in the gap when we get the back, when we get to the end. I'm going to use the Cupressus. So Cupressus Goldcrest, there's a few different varieties of it, and it's a shrub that you can quite often pick up in the supermarkets as well. Slow growing, it's not like a Leylande that grows really fast, but that's going to give me some of the lime green colouring. And also the lime green picks up on that really vibrant, verdant colour of the stem of the daffodils. So we've got that link and that rhythm and repetition that's important in an arrangement. We also have traditional sort of common ivy from the garden, and it's okay to have it draping over the side of the container as long as again you put it in that blocking and that grouping method rather than randomly spreading it out throughout the arrangement. So this is going to work quite nicely just down over the side. And because I have it on the left side of the arrangement, I'm going to bring some towards this area here. Now this design is quite natural. If you can't get ivy or the conifer that I've used, any foliage from the garden will be really good. You could even just cover it with moss. You don't necessarily have to use foliages. And you can see 2 placements there at the back. And I've got one more foliage to go in. This one is, I don't think we've used it before. This is Glycerinia, and it's a garden foliage. It grows quite well here in the UK. So it goes with that zesty springtime feel that I'm trying to create. And I don't want a huge amount of it. It's a slightly different colour green to my ivy. So we're going to have a nice contrast in the colours and textures. And not a massive amount of it, but it's going to help fill those final few gaps in at the front and make sure my floral foam is completely covered. Squeeze a little bit there in amongst the daffodils. So that's where we are up to at the moment. Now when you look at the front, I'm going to add some of the Glycerinia in at the back. Now I don't think we need to add any more in there because I feel that it's going to become over cluttered and we're going to lose the individual characteristics of the flowers. It's important with a parallel design that you have space in between the flowers so that you can really appreciate them. But what do we think? Almost like a window box that you would have sitting outside in the spring or the summer, but a nice parallel design for you to have a go at. So I hope you've enjoyed that one. As always, please subscribe to the channel, hit that bell to be notified if you want to be informed every time I upload a new tutorial. Please add a comment in the box below, give us a like, thumbs up, thumbs down if you don't like what we do, and ask any questions. I love to hear from you all. We're over that 3,000 mark now, so I'm really pleased. But keep interacting with me because it helps other people find the channel. And if there's anything that you'd like to know, then please let me know and I'll try and answer your question. So a spring parallel design. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.